Let's talk about shark migration. I've mentioned this a couple times, but in math class, you're going to be rotating around the room doing different activities, working in different environments. I call it shark migration. So, how does it work? We have three oceans that you're going to be rotating through. There's the Atlantic Ocean, which is direct instruction with the teacher. Then there's the Indian Ocean, which is in the back of the room. That's where you'll be working independently. And then the Pacific Ocean is where you're working collaboratively with your peers. Let's see here. All right, so how do I know where to go? In a group, you will travel together to each ocean. These groups will be assigned soon and will change periodically. The groups are hammerheads, great whites, and sand sharks. If you notice, there's a poster at the door before you entered the classroom. That's going to tell you where your group should start. So if you're in the hammerhead group and you see the hammerheads are in the Indian Ocean, that's where you're going to go first. If the hammerheads are in the Atlantic Ocean, that's where you're going to go first. So you have to look at the poster to know where to go. You will be in each of the oceans for a specific period of time. Watch the timer, or listen to the timer, to know when to switch. Now here is the order. If you're in the Atlantic Ocean, then you're going to go to the Indian Ocean. And then if you're in the Indian Ocean, to the Pacific Ocean, and then Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. So that is the direction in which you're going to migrate. This is on the bulletin board in the front of the room in case you forget. And now, what exactly will you be doing in the Atlantic Ocean? So remember, the Atlantic Ocean is for direct instruction with the teacher. That's when you're going to be sitting up in the front of the room in that U-shaped area near the smartboard, and you're going to be learning math topics in a small group format. In this Atlantic Ocean, you're going to be covering units 1, 5, 7, and 8. So that means together we're going to be covering some things that you might not have a lot of background knowledge in. A lot of these topics are going to be new, and that's why I really want to do them with you in a small group form, small group setting. So that's ratios and proportions, let's see, algebra unit. We'll have algebraic expressions and equations and all of that. And then, of course, data will be in there. So you're going to start seeing measures of central tendency and variability. And we'll see box and whisker plots. It's going to be a lot of new stuff. Now, the Indian Ocean. In the Indian Ocean, which is in the back of the room, you'll be working independently. At the start of the week, you'll be given a list of activities that you are to complete independently. This may include video lessons from units 2, 3, 4, and 6. So some of those other units that we're not doing in direct instruction, you'll be doing independently. That's because a lot of the material that you'll see in those units is stuff that you should have some foundational knowledge in. You would have seen it in previous years. You'll also be doing workbook pages. You'll see some Puzzle Penguin writing assignments. There might be some activities on Schoology. And of course, because it's an independent area, you could be working on your ALEKS goals. You will have a weekly ALEKS goal to meet. And Quizlet. It's an opportunity for you to practice some of your math vocabulary too. This is also the time during class that you may leave the room to use the restroom. You do not need to ask permission to do this in the Indian Ocean. So it's only when you're working independently that you can leave the room to go and use the restroom. Obviously, if there's an emergency, there's an emergency. But otherwise, hold it till you get to the Indian Ocean. Remember to take a pass with you. Sign out on the door. Only one boy and one girl may be out at a time. There cannot be more than one out from each gender. And again, you don't need to ask permission. You can just, as long as there's a pass available, take it and go. Oops. Okay. Next, what exactly will I be doing in the Pacific Ocean? In the Pacific Ocean, you'll be working collaboratively with your peers. So this is when you get to work in a small group setting or maybe just with a partner. You'll be assigned a game. a group activity, or a group project to complete. If assigned to the North Pacific Ocean, you'll go to the group area by the cabinets, and if you're assigned to the South Pacific Ocean, you'll go to the table by the window. Now, how do you know what to do when you get to each ocean? In Schoology, you will find a link to the agenda for the day or the week. In the agenda, you will see what you'll be covering in the Atlantic Ocean, what you need to accomplish in the Indian Ocean, and what projects or activities you are to work on in the Pacific Ocean. A printed copy of this agenda will also be available, and the Indian Ocean independent work will be on a printed checklist for you to keep in your math folder. Remember that in the Indian Ocean, where you'll be working independently, there's going to be activities that I expect you to get done by the end of the week. So I'll have all of that on a checklist so you can check things off as you go along. And I'll show you an example of these. So this is what the agenda is going to typically look like. You'll see if you have homework. Let me get the pen going here. Okay, so if you have homework, that will be on here, so you'll be able to know what your homework is for the evening. If you're in the Atlantic Ocean, I'll let you know, kind of give you a heads up of what we'll be doing together as a small group in front of the room. If you're in the Indian Ocean, I will give you a list of things I want you to accomplish, like watching a video, recording the takeaways, which is just another word for the notes, completing workbook pages, and then of course your ALEKS and Quizlet time. And then over here in the Pacific Ocean, I'll let you know what I expect you to do in a small group or with a partner. And I'm going to give you some really good instructions. So take your time, read through the agenda, and you'll be just fine. This is pretty much what your checklist might look like for the Indian Ocean. So I might give you something like this at the beginning of the week, and it gives you a heads up of what I expect you to get done. If you look, it says for the directions, check off and write the date on the line when you complete each of the following activities. You should have the activities completed by, and that's where you're going to want to write in that specific date, because I'll tell you, okay, this is due Friday, or this is due on Monday. And then as you go through, you can say, oh, I got that 3-1 lesson done. I'm going to check that off. I did that on September 5th. Or, oh, I did the puzzle penguin writing. I did that on the 6th. So you just check them off, and then you write the date on there. And then, of course, your MCL programs, notice it says it can be completed in the Indian Ocean, but you will also have time during MCL, or maybe even during homeroom, or you can do this at home. These are your weekly ALEKS goals, and I also like for you to spend a little bit of time on Quizlet. So ALEKS, maybe your goal is to do 3 topics a week, and okay, maybe you got that done on Saturday, so maybe that was, you could write whatever the date is for Saturday. Quizlet, maybe you spent 10 minutes on Quizlet, and maybe you did that more than once. You can have multiple dates written down too. What if you get stuck? So, since your teacher, me, will be busy with the learners in the Atlantic Ocean, you will have to learn to troubleshoot. Sometimes you may be able to ask another adult for assistance if there is another adult in the room. Sometimes you'll just need to rely on your peers or try to work it out on your own. What you can do is check out the troubleshoot list for ideas. We're going to be working on that together. As we encounter some difficulties, we'll make a list of things that you could do to handle those. And I'll also have confusion cards available that you can take and fill out if you really need to speak to an adult. And if you need some help with a certain problem or a certain issue, you can take care of that with a confusion card, just to give us a heads up of what we need to do to help you out. What if you finish before the timer goes off? So, maybe you have 15 or so minutes in each ocean, and you got your thing done, whatever the assignment done in 10 minutes, you have 5 minutes left. What can you do? Well, these are some things that you're always welcome to do if time remains. We consider these activities in your tackle box. We could do ALEKS, you could do Quizlet. If you have homework, you can start that in class. I'm okay with that. You can read. Occasionally, I will put out an activity card that you can work on. It's something else for you to continue practicing or working on the concepts that we're doing in class. And the same thing goes with handy links. If you look when you get into Schoology, you'll see folders, and I'll try to put in some links that you could go to in the handy link folder for you to practice, the new math topics or to just extend upon them. What have you missed class? Well, if you're absent or you miss class for whatever reason, you will find a copy of each day's agenda in the absentee bin. This absentee bin will be probably in the front of the room. Look for the hanging file for the day that you were out. So if you were out on Monday, look for the Monday file. If you were out on Tuesday, look for the Tuesday file. And you'll see a copy of the agenda in there. Any other papers that I might have handed out will also be in there. You will probably be asked to come in during lunch or recess to get caught up on any work that you missed. So keep that in mind. And how do you know what group you're in? Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Occasionally, you'll be given a pretest. This pretest is not graded, but it will be used to determine what you already know about some math topics. After the pretest, Ms. Sexton will post the groups on the Shark Migration Bulletin Board. The groups will also be visible in Schoology, so you'll have two places you can look to figure out what group you're in, whether you're in the Hammerheads, the Great Whites, or the Sand Sharks. When you're in the Atlantic or Indian Oceans, so that's when you're working with me or when you're working independently, you'll be assigned a seat number. You must sit in your assigned seat when you go to the Atlantic or Indian Oceans. There are no assigned seats in the Pacific Ocean since you'll be collaborating with your peers and you may need to move around the table to work or play together. Some people might want to go to the floor for working on a big project or a game. So there's no assigned seating in the Pacific Ocean, but there will be some assigned seating in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. So keep that in mind. All right, I think we covered everything.